You're listening to The Modern Mainframe, BMC's Intelligence Optimization and Transformation podcast, covering the latest trends and issues in mainframe DevOps, data, operations, security, and cloud. You've never mainframed like this. Hello, welcome to The Modern Mainframe. I'm Matt Delaire. Our discussion today is on intelligent autonomy, specifically the use of AI agents and agentic workflows to automate tasks in the mainframe. We've assembled an all-star panel for today's episode with, from Intellyx, Managing Director Jason Bloomberg, and Director and Principal Analyst Jason English, and from BMC, Distinguished Engineer Anthony DiStauro, and Principal Product Manager Mark Schettenhelm. So Jason, Anthony, Mark, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Glad to be here. So I'd like to lay the foundation for today's discussion with a couple of questions for the Jasons. Jason English, from your view across the enterprise IT landscape, what are the biggest trends or pain points that you're seeing that are driving the need for intelligent autonomy, specifically agentic workflows and AI agents in complex environments like the mainframe?
Yeah, I mean, if the last 2 years are any indication, last 2 years were all about Gen AI, and then 2025 will probably be remembered as the year of agentic AI. It's just about all any pundit or analyst is talking about right now in the IT market. So there's kind of two extremes to our view of it. I mean, there's a maximalist view of agents as these fully autonomous entities that can independently gather information and make decisions and execute complete workflows and self-heal when conditions change. But these sorts of approaches inevitably fall down in complex enterprise environments. I mean, if the agents aren't bringing mainframe teams along for this ride, then they're only going to generate excess technical debt. And, we can get into some more detail on that side. But, conversely, there's a really pragmatic way to look at agents as well as handling very tightly governed functionality. In that sense, the agents are becoming nothing but an extension of task and workflow automation tooling, sort of like business process services or RPA bots, but just a little bit better, maybe with a conversational chat interface. But, an LLM is not an agent, and that leaves a lot of the potential value of agentic AI on the table, especially in a mainframe environment. So, we're looking for a happy medium between these two extremes to unlock the value of agentic AI for the mainframe. And all involve, augmenting the chronically understaffed mainframe team's capabilities with new levels of insight and automation while removing rote tasks from their plate. And that's where we really see the biggest bright spots in agentic AI emerging this year, for team knowledge transfer, for annotating code, helping understand code bases, helping be sort of like a data concierge to everything that exists in those environments, as well as, automating very routine tasks and making recommendations as the team goes forward. That kind of helps them learn and understand what's going on in the architecture while still helping with everyday tasks. And by integrating it in that way, we can really start to see some real value coming out of this technology. Whereas in other sectors of IT, it may be a little bit more questionable as the value now. This is an area where we definitely see it happening right now.
Jason Bloomberg, how close or far are we from realizing true intelligent autonomy in enterprise systems? And what capabilities or mindset shifts still need to happen before this becomes mainstream across platforms like the mainframe?
When we talk about intelligent autonomy or autonomous behavior, I mean, it sounds good in theory, but then when people sort of think about what it really means, basically putting software in charge of getting things done without human interaction, people, are very resistant to that idea, right? They need a human in the loop at the very least, or at the most, they want autonomous systems to provide recommendations that humans then would execute. So people don't trust the technology enough to put it in charge of actually doing things for them. And when you get into complex environments like the mainframe, especially mission critical environments, where if something goes wrong, it can take down transaction processing for a bank, and is obviously the last thing any bank would ever want to do. So they are understandably reluctant to put software in charge of anything. So this is especially true when the behavior of the agents is non-deterministic. So this is an important distinction between deterministic and non-deterministic behavior. So deterministic behavior essentially for a given set of initial conditions, the software, whatever it happens to be, whether it's agents or traditional process automation, it'll execute the same steps, every time. So if you have some sort of process automation where you understand the automation and you understand what it's meant to accomplish, then the automation technology can execute a series of steps to achieve a particular result, and people are more likely to trust that. But agentic behavior can also be non-deterministic, where the agents are now in charge of figuring out how to solve a problem. So they will query their own various data sources depending upon what they think is the best approach. They may call different tools to achieve certain goals or gather additional information, and they'll behave iteratively. So they may actually try something to see if it works, and if it doesn't work, they'll try something else based upon additional data from other sources or from the feedback that they're getting from initial attempt. So that non-deterministic behavior is a special characteristic of agentic workflows, but is not necessarily something anybody would want in a highly mission critical production environment. So there's certain situations where you do want that kind of behavior, right? If you're looking to get your agents to research a topic for you, where they're going to go out and they're going to figure out different things and they're going to uncover data that you didn't know about, and they're going to explore and they're going to come up with some sort of recommendation or answer, then that may be an appropriate for non-deterministic behavior. But when it comes to IT operations or cybersecurity, threat management or resolving threats or vulnerabilities, you don't want agents to, go off the rails and make up their own way and figure out what they want to do, because it may or may not be the right answer, right? And if you're looking for the right answer in a situation like that is mission critical, then you're unlikely to rely upon the agents that we have today. So that leaves the deterministic behaviors, essentially process automation, more standard process automation, where you have the workflow planned out ahead of time. You know what's going to do, and you know how it's going to accomplish things, and that may be really the state of the art for agentic workflows today.
So I'd like to get everybody involved in this, but I'll start with Anthony. Let's talk about the evolution from chatbots to true AI autonomy. Why isn't ask and answer enough anymore? And what's different about the way agentic AI functions compared to traditional LLM systems?
Yeah, yeah, good question. So, the evolution that we're seeing right now is sort of what we expected to see by this time, right? We're about 2 years into this journey. You know, for all it's good using the LLMs today, the experience that we attach to the LLM is a chat-based experience, right? Whether it's even a slightly smarter assistant over a chatbot, but at the end of the day, it's still a passive technology, right? The AI sits there idle and dormant until you go, the human, and interact with the LLM today. And the way we do that, obviously prevalent, is a chat experience that we all use every day. But again, that's a passive experience. We only go there when we have to research something, the how-to type questions, the what is type questions, how do I type questions, create me some content type questions. Again, it's passive. The nice thing with the agents and everything that Jason B was just describing, we're moving towards autonomy. We're moving towards using agents to change the mind shift from this passive to an active model, from a reactive model with the chat to a proactive model with agents, where we could have agents working 24/7, whether it's doing research, it's creating reports, whatever it is, it's analyzing system information, real-time information, and compiling reports and summaries, and including that human in the loop during that journey. It's that proactive model which is standing out right now for a lot of opportunity. But again, like Jason B was saying, there's two ways to look at these agentic workflows as we go forward. They're either prescriptive, where the engineers of the AI system being built clearly orchestrates the agents step by step on what they need to do to achieve their goal. And the second part is leave it up to the agents to determine, how it should solve a goal. That second part, we're far away from right now. We don't, there's a trust level that we have to establish with that. But at the end,
Okay,
it's
Anthony,
just
can
moving
you
from that
define what
reactive
an
to a
AI agent
proactive
is in the
model
context
with
of mainframe
AI with these
operations,
agents.
and what makes it different from conventional automation or rule-based systems?
Yes. You know, we look at our agents in our solutions as being able to perceive and understand data in their environment, being able to draw conclusions on that information, being able to act upon that information, being able to learn what's going on in an environment from processing this data, and then able to communicate. And that communication could be with a human, or it could be with another agent in an agentic based system. That's kind of the way we're painting our vision of what agents should and could be within a solution set, is to get to that point where what we really like about the agents is that we can deliver agents to our customers and our solutions, and they can learn from our customers' environment over time. Is nothing better than have agents learning and growing in a customer's mainframe operations environment and really intimately getting to understand what's going on in that customer's environment and make decisions that are unique for that particular customer. This is a big shift. Before, we would send out rule-based systems that was generic across the board for all of our customers, whatever solution that we're rolling it out in. Or now to have agents that could learn and optimize with respect to a customer environment and grow with the customer as the customer grows with their ops needs, as an example. This is going to open up
So,
tremendous
Mark, you've done
opportunities
a great job in
in
explaining
IT
things in the
solutions that
past
we were
in
just not
various
able to
blog
achieve
posts.
just a few
How
years
would
ago.
you explain agentic workflows to a mainframe architect who's just hearing the term for the first time? What's the value of adding this structure, and where does it apply best?
Yeah, the way I see it is, I'm a big believer in DevOps automation and having those automated pipelines. So developers are doing things like checking for security vulnerabilities or the quality of their code and not even realizing it. They're just, doing a compile and it's done. So I really believe in automation. What I see that's different with agentic workflows is it's the ability to put more logic in there. It goes back to what Jason Bloomberg was talking about, the prescriptive and non-prescriptive, and with a normal pipeline, you usually don't put much logic in there. With these agentic automation streams, you can start to put in some decision points. So you could say, oh, off the top of my head, like you did a compile and it failed. It could analyze that and go, oh, here's your errors, and then go back and help you then when you go in and make changes. Its ability to put a little more intelligence and push the gains you've had from automation up to another level.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Those capabilities are really, it's not like building workflow capabilities into the software. It's more like you're giving an agent the tools it needs to kind of specialize in each of those skills, right? So if you give it the tools, that'll be the path of least resistance for that agent to get better at doing what it's doing. The tools to understand your environment. So like different agents have different capabilities, or they're provided different sets of tools, and they learn from that. Like one is really good at deployments, like you're saying. One is really good at refactoring a code base. One is good at exposing those as APIs and then helping govern that side of it. So it's all of those like types of tools just give that leads to more agent specialization over time, and each of them get better at doing what they're doing in the environment.
Right. That's the exciting thing to me is if you just go to AI, it does a good job, but it's that ability to specialize that really makes a difference. And then the architecture allows for calling different specialists, as you said. And then when you add on MCP servers, that makes AI the brain, but it can't do anything. Adding in MCP gives it ability, those tools to actually go in and do things, to go check out code or to suggest those changes. It gives it some arms to go with the brain.
And Mark, adding to that, what I like about this whole concept about the agents is that, we're learning, we as the industry, having the LLM trying to handle lots of responsibilities and lots of tasks, the overall performance of the AI could suffer from that regard. By having agents and us having specialized language models for those agents and training those agents for the specific roles or goals that we want those agents to achieve, with all kinds of external information that we need to help drive what it needs to do. We're getting really good performance out of the agents being specialized in tasks. And then when it's stitching those
So, Anthony,
agents
on
together
that
to
note,
form these
what
agentic
happens when
workflows,
multiple AI
that's where the
agents
power
work
of
together?
agents will
How
really
does that
shine.
coordination or agentic orchestration help drive larger outcomes?
Yeah. And there's been a lot of talks, obviously, around agents and agentics, but at the end of the day, there's not really much talk about orchestration, right? We have all these agents. They have capabilities. How do we stitch these capabilities together and reuse these agents to solve complex IT issues? How do we coordinate all that? Well, that's what orchestration comes in. We're looking at for use cases that we're addressing with an agentic workflow. We have a lead orchestration agent for that particular job, right? And that orchestration agent will coordinate activities with the collection of agents that it's working with, and this is where it's going to lead to solving multi-step complex problems with agents. But it all comes down to the orchestrator and making sure that the execution of that workflow goes as planned through that cycle. And we need to have more discussions around orchestration. There's not enough out there in the industry. Like I said, we talk about agents, we talk about workflows, but what does it really mean? What does that mean for that orchestration agent to coordinate all the activities that need to be done? But that's how it's going to happen, and that's the way we're looking at solving problems with agents doing orchestration.
Yeah, I despise sports metaphors, but sometimes I can't help it. But I kind of look at it as like if you had a baseball team, you need someone to cover all these positions. But with
Yep,
an agentic orchestration, would be like you're only actually talking to the positions you need at that time to field that play, right? So
absolutely,
yeah, so it's
absolutely.
like they have an idea of how they should work together given the situation that's arisen. And that's where the orchestration comes in. It's saying, okay, well, I need an outfielder, I need a second baseman, I need them to throw it to home if it's that particular thing.
Yes,
But that's sort of like the idea that we have is each of these are plays that are somewhat dynamically assembled, but they have a certain logic to them to get to this finished goal. And so the
yes.
orchestration is really this goal-oriented orchestration, but you have this ability to kind of surface the agents that are needed to complete that. And they work together in that sense, you know?
That's right. And, in a true agentic system, you would have a catalog of agents and what their capabilities are, et cetera. And that orchestration piece can pull on that catalog and start interacting with the agents, using standard protocols that we have today, like agent to agent communication. You use the sports analogy. I use the sports analogy quite a
Mhm.
bit. I talk about the orchestration agent as the quarterback
Yeah.
that's on the field, right? He's perceiving what's going on with the defense and, the structure of the defense and what they're lining up for, and that quarterback could orchestrate it. He can call it
But what are
audible,
some of the most
etc.
compelling
So
use
that's the
cases
way
you've
I
seen
kind of describe it
where
to
the
people
customers are starting to
when I talk to them
implement
about it.
when it comes to applying agentic AI to mainframe optimization and transformation?
I was at the Share conference, and I was actually speaking to someone who they are experimenting with an agentic workflow. And what they're doing is they're looking at SLAs that are about to be missed or are missing. And what they're doing is they have four agents, I believe, they were describing to me. So when there is an alert based on an SLA, there's one agent that is the gatherer, right? So the orchestrator that we just talked about will reach out to this agent that knows how to gather all the information to do the analysis of what the situation is. This agent knows where to pull from sources, like Mark was just saying. Agents will use a protocol like MCP, which is Model Context Protocol, and that's the arms of the agent that can reach out to external systems. So in this guy's example, his gathering agent was reaching out and pulling events and logs and all kinds of notifications from different systems, compiling all the information. That agent then passed it on to another agent that did the analysis of all this information that was passed to it. And then at the end, that agent, after the analysis was done, passed all the information to I think it was a notification agent who then took all this information, put it into a report, sent out notifications to the appropriate humans in the loop on next step actions to remedy the situation with the SLA. So there were 4 agents, including the orchestrator, involved in this, and this is something that was in their test environment and something that we're working towards in their environment to help with their SLAs, and then using agents to do all this grunt work that a human would normally have to do, or a few humans that would normally have to do. But now these agents do all the heavy lifting, all the analysis, and then passes the information onto a human for final execution. So that was an example I just spoke to someone about.
Yeah, we used to have to do that with complex policies that would be built into tied to run books, tied to a bunch of, I mean, like a bunch of other automation components that didn't really have that sort of intelligence. That's how you used to do it manually, but none of those things could be kicked off without somebody hand holding it between each of those steps.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's the role of the LLM, or really the language model, if it could be a specialized language model, isn't necessarily a large language model, that really makes all the difference, right? We've had actually, I remember agents from the 1990s, right, where you autonomous pieces of software, but there was no AI behind them, so there's no way for them to have any level of understanding of the context of what it is they were being asked to do. But now we have that context,
Yes.
and the C in mild context protocol is context, right? That it's more than just sending a database query to some system and getting back the result. MCP allows for additional context about the type, about what the goal is and about what the type of information is, so that it feeds into the language model in order to provide that analysis and that reasoning capability, which is something we haven't had before. So agentic AI is basically, building on a lot of the experience and technologies we've had before. We've had different kinds of automation before. Agents are an older technology, predating AI, but now we have generative AI. We have the full understanding of how automation should work, and we put those together, and now we're able to come up with this, better approach for gathering the context from the information we have in order to make the appropriate recommendations to solve a particular problem.
Yeah, and that's a fabulous point because, you got context of one part for the LLM, but then we also have context that understand, Jason, who you are, right? And your role within the enterprise and what's important to you, such that the AI knows your context, right? So when it gives you information back on next step actions or recommendations, whatever it may be, it can tailor those specifically for you, where somebody else may want to tailor differently for their persona that they play in the enterprise. So yes, context is key. And then we have the LLMs today to work with all that context to formulate the responses. The second thing that you said, it was really important. You mentioned specialized language models. That is, I personally, the key to success with agents and agentics moving forward. We've talked about large language models. We talked about small language models, the SLM. I and you just said the same thing. I look at SLMs as the specialized language models. If I can have specialized language models in the area of AI ops for my ops agents, that would be great. If I can have a specialized model in my DevX space or my DevX based agents, that will be great. That's where I see us moving as an industry to those specialized, domain specific, even task driven language models. And I think that's going to be a game changer.
It's especially true in the operations and cybersecurity world, where the tasks are within that particular context, so whether it's operations, AI ops, you mentioned cybersecurity as well. In other situations, we're seeing organizations using large language models with agentic AI for, supporting employee interactions across HR and finance and other areas. But when it comes to IT operations, mainframe operations, as well as security, you really want to ratchet it down to specific models who are focused on the information relevant to those specific tasks. And that is also why you can make more progress, right? Those general purpose agents aren't as advanced because there's just a lot more to deal with. How do you solve an HR problem with an agent? Well, it's that's a harder question because it's far more open ended. How do you ensure your mainframe is performing properly is a much more specific goal that agents are better able to deal with.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to Mark's analogy of the arms. The MCP protocols and examples, those arms allow the agents to actually take actions, and etc. When we're talking about agents too, we want those agents to have dinosaur arms, right? We want to have small reach with those agents, only what they can do. So we put guardrails around those agents. We keep their capabilities only scoped to exactly what they need to do, nothing more. So we keep those arms short in that regard.
That's a good point because that's a real concern is
Yes.
is what they can do. And so when you design it, make sure that you put those controls in place. They can only do really specified actions.
So Mark, when we talk to our engineers, we can say dinosaur arms. That's what
All
we
right.
I'm going to start using that one.
I'd like
But
to
just don't
start
ask them
off
to
with
pay the check,
JE
you
and
know.
Jason Bloomberg on this one. What
Yeah.
kind of business value
Well,
can
well, cool.
organizations expect when they start integrating agentic AI into their mainframe environments? How should teams think beyond technical benefits to broader outcomes?
Well, I'll kick it off. I mean, because we're essentially talking about an approach to automation, automation can accomplish tasks more quickly than humans can. So this can lead to, quicker resolution of issues. So a lower MTTR, mean time to resolution. And whatever the actual issue is, you can achieve that goal more quickly, especially if you have in a complex information environment. I mean, humans can only deal, we have a limited attention span, a limited quantity of information we can process as human beings, but agents don't have that limitation, right? There's a sport of various language models. They can process large quantities of information. They never get tired, right? They're on duty 24/7. And so they're able to achieve those goals more quickly and more consistently. Also, this scales the expertise of the organization, right? We're not you going to use agentic AI to reduce headcount. That's not the way it's going to work. Rather, we're taking tasks off of people's plates that they don't want to do anyway. That they're repetitive tasks, they're onerous tasks that watching green light, red light on a dashboard is not something that, excites the highly skilled technical people that these organizations have. So if we can get some of these, more basic routine tasks off their plates that empowers them to tackle more interesting and more challenging things. So we're never going to, or at least not in the near future, going to tackle all problems with agentic AI. Rather, we're going to tackle those problems that agentic AI is well suited for and leave the more difficult, challenging problems to humans, and that's also a benefit as well.
Yeah, you really need to look at it in the value to the overall organization and not just some ROI expectation based on each implementation, because then you're never going to get over that hump of being able to realize the ROI that you expected unless you can look at it in this broader sense of like, how as an organization are we going to do better as a team? I mean, even just the point of view of this knowledge transfer, if those employees are happier there, they're more likely to stay. If they're currently staying for 3 years, what if they stayed for 5? What's the cost of training a new employee on this system? If I could get them up to speed in 1 month instead of 6, isn't that like a huge amount of value that I've just generated it by making them a productive team member, having them handle very important things? And you can almost look at each of those metrics with some of those soft value stats as well. So like if if I have faster MTTR, like what effect is that going to have on my customer retention, failed SLA contracts? If my systems don't perform as I expect, you have to look at all the knock-on effects that you can improve. But as well as looking at some of the risks, like, how much am I spending on all of this and how much, yeah, you need to look at the cost value equation still, but there's a lot more value to
Anthony
be
Markey,
realized
you
if
had
you
a
have a
session
longer
recently at
term
Share
value
on this
metric for the
subject.
organization
So I'll
that you
turn to
can
you on
tie
this
to it.
one. If a mainframe team wants to get started, what best practices would you recommend? What should they be doing now to prepare for success with agentic AI? Anthony, I guess we'll start with you.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to something we talked about already is context. It's very important that the language models have that information. What does that really mean when it comes down to what's the context? Context is understanding the customer's environment. We're looking to gather as much information to augment the LLM with, right? So even though it's a specialized, say, language model, as we discussed, in the AI ops space, security space, whatever it is, there's still a level of context that is needed from the customer's environment. And so for the customer to prepare, they should have things like, documented workflows, processes, policies, playbooks, best practices, guidelines, whatever they have of these institutional knowledge-based documents, this whole corpus of text of information that they have specific to their environment, that should be processed down into, say, what we call a vector database, so that could be used as augmentation with the LLM. So the LLM has context about their organization and obviously to the real-time data that's being produced by our products. So that's the first part. The second thing is, look into specialized language models, right? W- So the AI platform of choice that you're using, s- explore the specialized language models for the areas that you want to be applying to utilizing AI with. See what's out there, try them in-house with your AI solution, etc. That'll be another thing that we look at. But the other thing is about staffing, right? A lot of it when it comes down to getting into the space, even if it's just with the language models, never mind the whole agentic system, education on the staff to be proficient in understanding how AI works under the hood is critically important. Not saying you need to be at a complex engineering level with AI, but just basic understanding on how language models work, good prompt engineering practices when you're interacting with your AI system, that will take you a long way. I think some of the best practitioners going forward, whether it's in ops or DevX or wherever, the best practitioners are going to understand not only the domain, but also how to fully utilize AI within that domain. Those are going to be the standout employees moving forward.
Yeah, and then, back to the share presentation that I did with Anthony, we had 5 steps to implementation. So I'm going to go through those quickly, and Anthony kind of jump in just as you did when we presented. So the first one was training. As you said, there should be training. So ensure your developers are trained on AI, Agentics, MCP servers, what they are, how they can help, going through the things we've discussed today so they get that understanding. Identify use cases. So where could agents automate manual tasks, and have them look for, what are good prospects to go in and do this automation with agents. And then choosing your AI platform, that's a very important choice. And then your agentic framework, and then look for existing agents that you can add. And then lastly, develop your MCP servers and your agent protocol.
Yeah, but you said something going back about the training and identifying use
Mhm.
cases. That was another conversation I had with one of the folks afterwards that attended our session. You know, the art of the possible, as we like to say. Jason B, you mentioned before, yeah, there's the grunty work, the friction work that none of us want to do. This person was asking me, like, where do they start? Where do they start with use cases? And we had a whole conversation around that. Like, what's the stuff that's not fun that people have to do every day and don't really want to do, or it takes just a lot of time from you from your day. These are the areas where they were looking to start to explore with using AI in those types of use cases. And I thought that was a great first step for this organization in doing that, because he started to describe some of the things they got to do on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis. And it's a lot of this like rinse, repeat, time consuming, a lot of cognitive load type work. That's what they're looking to eliminate. So they're doing these like blue sky sessions, they called it, on identifying those type of use cases. And I think that's a great start for them to do that. So to all those points that we talked about, Mark, at the share session, this one person and his organization, that's exactly where they're looking. The second part, when I was talking to this particular person, wasn't even on their radar about taking their institutional knowledge and getting that into a form digestible for the AI to be augmented with the LLM. They didn't even think about that. They were just looking at, oh, we're going to be using this LLM, and they thought that was going to be good enough. And yeah, we spent some time on this. I was talking with him. I think most people realize today the LLM alone is just not enough. And it goes back to what we've mentioned multiple times. Not enough context in just the LLM alone. Unless an organization is training their own language model, they're going to have to deal with context. So we had a whole discussion about that and what they need to be looking for in an AI platform. An AI platform should be providing the tooling necessary to allow organizations to process their institutional knowledge into the AI system for the AI system to lean on. So that was a whole area that they haven't explored. He was very thankful that we had that conversation. He was going to bring that back to his organization as something they needed to look into.
Yeah, that's institutional knowledge point that you're making. I mean, it's very important, whether it's institutional or tribal knowledge, because traditionally that tribal knowledge is locked away in the heads of the experts, and now all of the mainframe experts are retiring, and so organizations risk losing it forever.
Yes.
So what do you have them do? Well, you have your experts write down everything they know, and it can be a daunting challenge. But with LLMs can process information in different forms, right? So it could be that some mainframe expert in your organization documents one thing that they do, or two things that they do, or maybe they have a conversation and you transcribe that, or maybe they're working with a tool and the tool is able to log what is going on and uses that as a established pattern. All of that information can be fed into LLMs, via RAG or other technologies that now becomes part of this explanatory context that helps the LLMs provide better results, which in turn means that the agents know better what to do. So tribal knowledge is now easier to unlock. You still have to get people who have stuff locked away in their heads to put it down somehow, but
Yes.
you have a lot more options. It's a lot easier than just ordering people to write run books all the time, because that's never been something anybody wants to do.
Yes, and I spoke to another gentleman at a previous conference. He was saying that he's been putting off his retirement for like 2 years now because he has all this information, whether it's in his head or elsewhere, and he just says, "I'm not ready to retire because I just can't leave my team right now." And when we spoke to him about our capabilities and our platform with BMC Amy Assistant and what we could do there, he's like, "Now I have an avenue to retire it," because that's what he was looking for. He wants to take all this information, put it into an AI system, so it's available to his team. Because the way he was looking at it, if it's in the AI system, that's me inside the AI system. I can go off and retire. All right. So that's the way he was looking at it.
It's the knowledge and the decision making that you can put in there.
Yes.
And it can be adaptable rather than just code is code and then you have to change it. This is something that can adapt and learn just like he would have.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And what I really like about this, if we're looking into, future use cases, we can still look back at this as like an extension of DevOps, or like taking it to this next level. Like if we think of these as kind of virtual workers that are working alongside us, then they share our permissions to see certain things. But we need to help those employees kind of know how to interact with the agents better, right? So the agent can even be suggestive as to, better ways to work with me through the orchestration model. But basically providing like platform engineering so that all the teams can understand what's it going to be like in this future state when I am working with agents to get things done. When I'm working with the orchestration agent, we're helping like socialize those norms in this future workplace. And so that's really going to become kind of key to success. So the organizations that do this the best will help their employees better think of their role working with this new form of intelligence, if we want to call it that.
Yes.
It's not fully autonomous, but it has a lot of capabilities, and it too can help show us how we can work with it better. Like suggesting, not just suggesting better prompts, but what it could do for you. And I think we're going to get there in the next 2 years, where we start seeing some organizations that really take this to heart, provide
Yes.
AI platform engineering in essence for their teams to go forth and really be productive.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that statement. I can only imagine where we'll be in 3 years or 5 years. We're gonna look back at this
I'll go
time
around the
and we're
horn
gonna
and
realize what
ask for some
infancy that
closing
we were
thoughts
sitting
from
in
each
right
of
now
you, and we'll
compared to
start with
where we're gonna
Anthony.
be in 5 years. Closing thoughts. AI agents are here. They're here to stay. We are in the early stages of that with what I call, or I guess an industry calls, prescriptive workflows, where we would we coordinate your engineers of your AI system. We'll orchestrate the agents through a workflow, but we will quickly evolve to a point where our AI agents will be making their own decisions and reacting to stimuli in the environment, making their own decisions on how to solve problems. But there is a trust chasm there that we have to get over till we see that part of it happening. But AI agents like here, and we all should be looking at them to open up new opportunities for us. But here's the big thing when it comes to agents and the protocols around agents, like the agent-to-agent communication protocol or MCP, it's going to start allowing us to look at solutions by seamlessly integrating with other AI ecosystems where you'll have agents from one ecosystem collaborating with agents from another ecosystem. You'll have BMC, Amy agents collaborating with customer A agents and formulating holistic or cohesive
Great.
solutions
Mark?
that way with agents. It's going to open up a lot of interesting opportunities for all of us in this area.
Yeah, I I always say with a lot of trends, like I've never seen anything this fast before. Well, I'm going to say it again. This is fast, fast moving. It's very exciting. And if you think, oh, I'm not able to do that, I say keep looking or look again in the next week or in a month and really be open. I mean, if you've sat through this podcast, I congratulate you for learning. And I think seek out other podcasts, seek out other things, and be really watching this month by month because you'll start learning more new things.
JE,
You
any
you
final
don't want to
thoughts?
do this in isolation. You really want to work with the community to really implement this.
I just hope our agents don't get. We hope they're not on like a football team or a baseball team or get their own agents to represent them, and then try to charge us more money for them. And who knows what'll happen then? But fortunately, they're not that self-aware yet. But I think it really is about a teamwork that we're going to share with agents, and we're already getting there. I think, especially on the mainframe, this is a bright spot where you can already see the value. You can see this teamwork value happening, in real time in this area. Whereas in other areas, there's a lot of speculation still about conducting everything autonomously through agents or having them. It's a lot of it's more marketing in that
And I'll leave the
sense.
last
But
words to you,
here is a
Jason
place where we
Bloomberg.
see this happening early, and it's really exciting.
Okay, well, the agents today are generally purpose-built, right? We have agents for particular tasks, and they do their own research and make their own decisions on their way to achieving those specific goals. But they've been, basically programmed to achieve those goals. What I see happening over time is that agents become increasingly general purpose, where it's really about whatever prompt you give them. So you can just tell your general purpose agent, do this, and it will figure out how to do it. So it won't have any predefined notion of what it's supposed to do. You will give it that when you define, its initial prompt, when you kick it off. Well, when we have agents that are that powerful and that flexible, the work that we need to do as humans will be in creating the constraints or guardrails. And that's going to be essentially what we need to do in order to program agents. It's not about saying what task you want to accomplish, it's about how far can you go? What are the rules that constrain your behavior? And then the agent will do everything it can to achieve whatever that initial goal was that the human used to kick it off within those
This
constraints.
has
So
been
it's
a
going to
great
be really about
conversation, not only
constraint
about
engineering
where we are
more
and where we're
so
going,
than
but
engineering the
also
agents
what to
themselves.
think about at the start and as we move along the journey. So, Jason, Anthony, Mark, thank you for joining us today and taking part in this.
Right. Thanks for having us.
A lot of fun.
Happy to be here.
As always, I'll include some links in the show notes for further reference. Thank you to everyone for listening today. We'll talk to you next time on the Modern Mainframe. Take care. You're listening to the Modern Mainframe, BMC's Intelligent Z Optimization and Transformation podcast, covering the latest trends and issues in mainframe DevOps, data, operations, security, and cloud. You've never mainframed like this.